Hello, everyone. This is my family tree and cultural bag presentation for ethnic and minority group, October the 14th, 2020. This is my beautiful mother. Her name is Kayleen Millhouse, and this picture is back in 1973. You can tell by the style of clothing that she has on, and I am going to see if anyone can see any resemblance to me and my mother. In this picture, she said that she is around the age of 25. And this photo is at my grandparents' home. Me and my mom actually shared um, the same yard with them. So I grew up next door to my grandparents. And I was, of course, raised by a single mother. My mother and father did get married after I was born, and they only stayed together for about 2 years and then they were divorced. So I was raised in a single parent home. Just sharing a few more photos of me and my mother. Um, See if you can see any resemblance. The first photo with the hats, of course, I'm in the white hat, my mother's in the black hat. And this was a photo shoot that we did at a church. Um, the next photo on your bottom left is actually in front of our mobile home. And of course, my mother's in the red shirt, and I'm in that brown looking shirt, and I'm taller than my mother. And then the final photo, my mother is sitting and I'm standing. And this was also a photo that was taken at the church, and it was the family portraits. And as you can see, it's just me and my mom. We were like two peas in a pod and partners in crime. So we had a lot of fun together. She is my best friend and my mother. This next slide, of course, is the Millhouse family photo, and it is very, very special to me. This photo includes my grandmother, Kayleen Millhouse, and my grandfather, Adele Millhouse, that are sitting. My mother is the young lady on the far end with her hands clasped together. My grandparents had 12 children total. They had 7 boys and 5 girls. My mother, of course, was the baby. And you can imagine with that large group, um, it was a whole, it was a lot of fun living next door to them and growing up. I have a very close relationship with my aunts and my uncles. Some of them even consider me almost as a sister. Um, my mother and I, like I said, we enjoy growing up right next door to my grandparents. I am an only child, but with this many aunts and uncles, you can imagine that I have cousins in in the African American community, with grandparents that close to you. We were all raised like siblings, so I never felt like an only child. I feel like I have plenty of brothers and sisters. This next slide that I have is the artifacts that I could find within our family. Another thing I guess most people I need to make you aware of in the African American community. Back in the times when my grandparents were around. My grandmother was born in 1927, my grandfather in 1922, and they moved around a lot because of economics and financial situations. So artifacts was, lost, misplaced. But this first picture with the man and the woman is, of course, my great grandparents, and it's actually my grandmother's parents, and it is Lily White carpet and Herman carpet. The next picture you see is Elizabeth Hall carpet, and that's actually Herman's mother. So that would be my great great grandmother. These pictures my grandmother currently have in her possession. So these are also some prized artifacts within the Millhouse and Corbett family. And this is the Holy Bible that has been in my grandmother's and our family for well over 100 years. My grandmother's 93 years old. She turned 93 years old September the 18th of 2020. So we are blessed to still have her. And you can imagine, you can see the wear and tear of the Bible. So she has had this Bible passed down from her mother. And I think it's a lock of hair inside that Bible. Um, I had that photo, but it's not very clear. So this is another family artifact. So as I stated, in the African American community, due to financial and economic cultures during that time, a lot of artifacts and information was, misplaced or lost. And actually, some of the information was not even correct based on what they have in, papers and history. But the information that I could find on my grandfather, which is Adel Milhouse, is, of course, his father was Ernest Milhouse Sr., and it looks like Jake Milhouse was his father. And if you notice the difference in the spelling and how it has changed over the years, Jake Milhouse spelled his name Milhaus, and then my great grandfather and my grandfather spelled their names Millhousc, and I currently spell my name Mil with one L, Housc. And you can look at this slide and you can see that we traced him back to 1877, South Carolina. My great great grandfather was 1898 to 1972. And of course, I was born in 1969, so of course I did not, know him. But my grandfather passed away in 1988, and I had just graduated from high school, and it was a hard time for me because being raised by a single mother, I actually never felt the absence of a father because, like I said, I grew up next door to my grandparents. So my grandfather and my grandmother I called mom and dad. So I've always had that father figure in my life, from the time I can remember myself until adulthood. So his passing was very hard for me, but now I cherish his memories. And this next slide is Adel Milhouse, which is my grandfather, and like I said, my daddy. I know the pictures aren't the best pictures, but I wanted to put them in just to recognize him and make everyone aware of how special and how important he was in my life growing up. He taught me a lot, gave me a lot of advice, gave me a lot of wisdom, taught me even how to barbecue. So that's one of the things. I mean, I did everything with him. He taught me how to fish. I love my grandfather. So those are just two pictures of him, and he was a wonderful man. This next slide is ethnicity estimate, and I have a family member that did the ancestry.com, and this is what it came back: 29% Mali, 25% Nigeria, 22% Cameroon, Congo, and Western Bantu people, uh, Benin and Togo 16%, Ivory Coast and Ghana 4%, Senegal 2%, Scotland 1%, and German Europe 1%. So this is the history of where the Millhouse family actually started from in Africa. The information that we received actually showed our ancestors coming to the United States, and we landed in the port of Charleston and the port of Savannah. We spread out through Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, some in Florida, and then, of course, some up north in Pennsylvania and New York. This last slide is my biological father, James Lee Clemens. And as I said, I was raised in a single parent home. My parents did get married. They stayed together for about 2 years after I was born. And I wanted to recognize my father because, in my late, I think mid 30s, me and my father actually established a relationship. We even went fishing. We would talk on the phone at least once a week. We shared dinners together. We just hung out like, father and daughters normally do. And, he came and he wanted to apologize and ask for my forgiveness for not being, a part of my life when I was growing up or in my life. And at that point, I told him, that was not necessary, that I didn't have any anger, I didn't have any resentment. I was just not raised that way. I let him know that I never felt like I was missing a father or a father figure because I had my granddaddy, which I called daddy, and he understood that. My father was a truck driver by trade. He enjoyed, like I said, fishing. He loved baseball, and he actually, the older he got, he became a Christian, and that's why I think he really, you know, felt the need to keep apologizing for not being in my life. But finally, we got past that because he realized that I did not have any animosity or hate, and I didn't miss out on anything. At least I don't think I did with my grandfather and my grandmother, being a part of my life, being raised in a loving family. I had so many cousins that, I can't even number and name them all. So I just never felt that I was missing anything. But my father did pass away in December on December the 1st of 2013, and of course his name was James Lee Clemens. And this is the end of my heritage presentation.